All right. Welcome, everyone, to this week's DevRev Live. This is now becoming a weekly thing where we connect with our friends and folks that are joining us to talk about team intelligence and features that really amplify the value of DevRev and really talk about what we do as a sort of a public show and tell with our engineers. So today, I have the great fortune of having one of our engineers, Devanshu Agrawal. Devanshu, welcome.
Hey Ahmed, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well. I'm sitting in Boston today. I'll be going back home tomorrow. What about you?
Yeah, it's going good. We have a new setup in Bangalore right now.
And the weather's
Just
good?
yeah, it's going
Okay,
good.
outstanding. So folks, oftentimes we'll have a conversation and mostly we'll spend time demonstrating how things work and how they work and why they work the way they work. But we typically continue the conversation during the live stream with questions, but then even afterward with our Discord server. So we'll put up a link to our Discord server here, and we'd love for you guys to join us there. And of course, as I said, we've been doing this weekly, so we've amassed quite a playlist of live streams in the past. So if you guys have a chance, take a look. We talk about everything from building agents to workflows, intelligence, MCP servers, many other topics that are pretty interesting in today's world of AI and agents and search and retrieval and everything else. I think today's is a topic that I'm particularly fond of because we know that search and retrieval need to work in a more increasingly hyper-personalized way as we look to the future. And there's several ways that we've done this in search over the past several decades, beginning with, the way we handled search when it came to queries and databases, and then of course search on the internet with search engine optimization and Google search and things of that nature. And now we're sort of squarely in this new world. And I think we want to figure out what that looks like. And the word that we like to use internally is annotations. And I think Devanshu is going to show you that while we have a very, very good search product within DevRev, there's ways to actually make it even better using annotations. So Devanshu, why don't you maybe put up your screen and we can start talking about this while doing a demo?
Yeah, sure. So let me start with having a context first. Like, what do you mean by having AI in your business? AI is like a very large context model, but it doesn't have the knowledge of what exactly we are doing over here. Like your business, your terminology, your specific use cases. It doesn't know anything about that. How do you use your product? How do you manipulate that product, and so on? It gives you
Yep.
very generic answer on the basis of the data we have, but it doesn't give you very concrete answer on what the data means to you.
Yeah, and I
So
think, and the thing that, sorry to interject, but what I would add to that is that's kind of why we like to combine the large language models with what we call the knowledge graph, which effectively brings the constructs, right? The people, the product, the work, and really the interrelationships between those three constructs. And agreed. And of course, we have our own capacity to do that. That's part of our secret sauce. But let's talk about how that connects with the annotations.
yeah, sure. So give an example. What I've done is I have created a one org over here. It has very basic customer profiles over here, like whatever the customers are there, what all there are maybe many issues on this, like there can be pricing too high for small beginners.
And
There
this is
can
what's
be
the name of this guy? I know you've created a fictitious company here.
yeah,
What's the name of the company?
it's a tech flow company. It basically a e-commerce platform. What it does is has a e-commerce platform and gives the conversational AI as a feature
Yep.
over the e-commerce objects and so on. So yeah.
And so, I mean, this company TechFlow that you've created, what you've effectively done is created an organization in DevRev that represents TechFlow. And of course, we don't know what TechFlow does, but it's as easy as just creating an article, and they can even just kind of put a link to their website and create a knowledge base. And probably behind the scenes, you've created maybe a handful of knowledge base articles to represent what this company does. And what we've done is actually extracted that information, brought it into our knowledge graph, so we understand a little more context about the business. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I have done. I have created a knowledge base of all these things. Apart from that, I have created some few examples in order to show how annotation works in our system.
Okay. And the reason we want to do that is because even if we know what the company does, maybe we understand a little more about their product and their history and so on and so forth, there could be some very specific terminology in terms of how they handle their system of record. There could be specific fields that don't really tell the full story, and there could be records they have, and there could be maybe even business processes that have real ramifications on search and retrieval quality. And those are very subjective, specific to a customer or an organization. Here in the case of TechFlow, they could have a lot of jargon, or they could have a lot of numeric fields that have internal meaning. And we have to have a way to take that subjective information, that subjective meaning, and start to bring it into our intelligence, our hybrid search mechanism. So let's maybe take an example. Why don't you show me what you've got?
Yeah. So that's what exactly it is. So suppose this is a one of the support case they have. What they have is they have a lot of fields in this. They have like what is the annual revenue generated using whatever the this is assigned to. What is the churn risk? Now we'll come to churn risk. Churn risk is something that is very generic statement. It can be very high churn risk versus very low churn risk. Now in this scenario, what for this tech flow, the churn risk higher, it means is like they have a more probability to churn. But if it is a lower number, it is more probability to there is no low churn risk over there.
And
The
can
same
you scroll at the very top of this record? I just want to see where it starts. Okay, so you're showing me a full list of attributes, but can we get out of the attributes and maybe just look at the full record? Okay,
Yeah.
So here what you've effectively done is created what you're calling a support case. And of course, there's many ways to set up a support case. You could create a ticket, you could create many other sort of objects, but in this particular case, for TechFlow, this business who it's using DevRev, they've actually created a custom object. And we allow for custom objects to be created, and we give them the full suite of first-class sort of behaviors, including the ability to search over them or do analytics on top of them and so on. Here in this case, what you're showing me is one such record is a support case that's been created. Pricing is too high for small business considering alternatives. Obviously, this is all fictitious information that you've created for the purposes of this. But when you go into the attributes, what you see here, as if you go back there, is the fact that they've created a full set of attributes. And again, going back to things like annual revenue, business impact, pretty easy to understand. But you've got something like churn risk. I understand it's related to churn risk, but what I don't understand is if 4 is good or bad. And what you're going to want to do is maybe show us how we interpret it and how even a customer can use annotations to influence how it gets interpreted.
Yeah, so we have created very basic over here, like many different objects.
Yeah.
So the same goes like, let's start with the search problem altogether. I just wanted to have what does TechFlow does.
Okay.
So it's a very basic information where we want to understand what does TechFlow does and how exactly the company is there. So what it does is it will structure over unstructured search, whatever the articles you have created and whatever the different type of objects you have created. So yeah.
Okay, so basically we're just starting off with a softball and saying, okay, can we even just know what TechFlow does? And what you're showing here is that it's able to effectively grab information from the knowledge base and actually go figure out what's going on and give you a reasonable answer.
Yeah. One second. So I guess
you've got a little problem in your playground environment here. Okay.
Yeah. So this is basically, it gives you all the information and it gives you from a multiple objects like articles, whatever the objects you have created, whatever in your system.
Can we just click on sources just to see where it sources information?
So this is the article we have created. We are saying that TechFlow works. There is a TechFlow plain document where we have created. It will just document over what TechFlow does, and it will just go over all these things.
Awesome.
If we can ask a very simple question: what is the pricing model for TechFlow?
Okay, and what should this do?
So it will give search over all the random objects you have created, in which you have explained about what TechFlow means, what is the subscription model, what are the plans you have. It will go over all the search of all the objects you have created, other than the articles you have created, and will find a consolidated way of what exactly is happening in the system. So yeah, one second.
Obviously, we've seen the pricing piece, and okay, actually no, we had only seen what TechFlow does, and now we're seeing what the pricing model is.
Yeah, so there are multiple pricing models that you have created as a object model into our system. The AI doesn't know anything about it, but it's somehow from your annotation somehow from your data only is finding
So
it out.
let's do this. Since I didn't see you type that in. I mean, I know you typed it in while you weren't sharing your screen, but can you maybe just type it in once more and just kind of we can see it happen live? Okay, so what is the
Yeah.
pricing model of TechFlow? Perfect.
Yeah. So what it will do is it will go over all your objects, all your system knowledge base, and find it out what exactly it means, and it gives you all this uh, annotations over there saying that where this object is coming from. So what we can have is we can have find it out. This is the model you have there. It's a TechFlow Enterprise Growth.
Mm-hmm.
And over here, on the basis of whatever the fields you have configured, it's giving you all this data.
Okay, got it. So you basically created a custom object. I guess it's called like a subscription plan. And this is a particular type of subscription plan called Enterprise Growth. It's got a certain kind of churn risk, customer segment, annual price. Some of these fields are human generated, and then of course some of them are probably automatically set up. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. So these are mostly human generated and whatever setup. So it just give you a basic meaning of whatever your data interpretation does, and that's what most AI models do. Whatever your data is, and it's done. Now I'll try to find it out. Show me basically all enterprise customers in your org in TechFlow. So I just want to understand how many enterprise customers there are in TechFlow. So again, we have created customer profiles, we have created their issues and so on. So it will go over there.
Okay, got it. So just, I mean, and at this point, all of this is obviously working without having to do any annotations. All you're really doing is just interpreting. In fact, you can make, misspellings and so on and so forth. Obviously, it doesn't make any difference. It understands what you're asking. And it's even able to sort of interpret all of the things that are easy to interpret and actually semantically provide you the answer that you're looking for, which is these are the enterprise customers of TechFlow. And it knows who the customers are, and it also knows how to apply on top of that the concept of enterprise.
Yes, yes. So it give me all the customer profiles there are, and these are the enterprise customer depending on their plan, depending on whatever the value it is.
Okay.
Now, what exactly we want? So we want to see there can be like there is a churn risk that we discussed about. Now I'll just ask which of these customers.
Yeah. And while you're typing that, I'll mention that what I like about what you just showed is the fact that it's actually looking across several different subscription plans. It just knows that each of those subscription plans are associated with the enterprise segment. So when you ask about enterprise customers, it's actually giving you an answer that's not just specifically one type of subscription plan. It's several plans that all sort of deal with the same segment, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So we'll go over which of this customer at the risk of churning.
Okay. So, and now what's interesting about this is it's going to have to understand how churning is either discussed in unstructured fields or how it's discussed or represented in structured fields. And then it's going to have an interpretation. And it looks like it has an interpretation because it says churn risk is 1.0, parentheses very low. And then, of course, it interprets 2 as being higher, slightly moderate. And then, of course, 5 being high. And that's an interpretation that actually, it's actually telling you exactly what it's making an assumption around, which is what 1 means, what 2 means, and what 5 means. We've never actually conveyed that. And I like the fact that it actually conveys that because it knows that's a working assumption and he may or may not be, or it may or may not be right.
Yes. So what we have done is like this generally churn rate, we assume it is in the range of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. And whatever the higher churn rate, we say that it's a higher risk of churning and the so on. So over here, it has its own assumption of saying that the Sarah Johnson is more about low churning rate, whereas the other robot we have global tech industries that has a higher churn rate. But and we'll suppose any other query we have, like we can say that are there any critical issues in the system?
Yep.
So over here, we want to understand like how does the AI interpret whatever the random data you are putting it out over there.
Yeah.
So
this in both of these cases, what you're really showing is that you've got numerical scores that have specific ranges, but you've never really described either what the high end of the range is and what the lower end of the range is, either whether you're going in decreasing order or you're going in increasing order, or even what the scores mean. It's never been conveyed. And so obviously the system is going to continue to work and give you, based on some working assumptions, in both cases, churn risk, or in this particular case, criticality of the issues. But it may or may not be right. But it's at least giving you it's conveying the working assumption. And now I think what we want to do is just show that there's something we can actually do about it.
Yeah. So right now, these are the different criteria that we have developed. But suppose if your company doesn't follow the normal trend of what is the churn risk, it says that whenever the churn risk is 1, it is highest, and as it goes to 5 or something, it is lowest. And the same goes for the priority, where we say that 0 is the standard support, 2 is the critical. And somehow we have not identifying this as a critical, because in this example we have not identified what are the critical issues there are, even though there is a tech op solution marked as priority 2 for us, which is number 2. So
in other words, I mean, what you're saying is, if you wanted to take churn risk, for example, and just say, listen, if churn risk is 1, that's a customer that is likely to churn. Or in the case of priority, if priority is 2, higher is worse. Like if it's priority 2, I actually want that to be interpreted as critical, not important. So you're going to want to maybe show us how that's done in the system.
So what we don't want is, we want to annotate this thing, and suppose every query, every analysis, this should be the base of AI to understand what is the data we are giving it to. So what we do is, we'll just update one of the fields and say that, okay, this is my way of understanding what are those fields, and we want AI to understand those fields, whatever the customer is getting understand. So in the background, what we'll do is, we'll create embeddings, we'll create unstructured thing, and say that this is basically the meaning of churn risk for this particular customer. And whenever you are going to query something, this should be the base model, and after that you are going to append on it.
And let me get this straight. You actually just added something to a description of a subscription plan. The actual object that you've defined, this is a custom object that's been created in the system. What you effectively did was just add a description to it. And that description is going to give us all the information we need to actually interpret those two specific fields, namely churn risk and priority, the way we want to interpret them.
So it's like annotating your own objects in the way you want to do.
And the annotation here in this case was very simple. You literally just dropped in how you want us to interpret those fields into a description attribute.
So now we'll ask the same kind of questions from the same user.
Okay.
If there are any kind of like, so we'll say, we'll ask a very basic question: what is the churn risk?
Okay.
So earlier the understanding was, higher the churn risk is a more probable it will go. And now we'll ask, what is the churn risk for the user?
Okay, so you basically, now that we've described it in the schema very simply using natural language, you're now wanting to see if it actually understands it. Has it interpreted it differently than what we did before?
So as you see, the churn risk now, 1 is the highest risk customers and 5 is the lowest risk customer. It just interprets on your behalf only what exactly is happening.
Amazing. I love that. I mean, literally, let's be honest, like you literally just added it to the description. A few seconds later, you say, what is the churn risk? And it describes it as if it knows this, that it knows how your business works. It understands your terminology, your scales and everything, which is amazing.
So the same question now we'll ask, which of customers are at risk of churning? So now it's understand what is the churn for us. Now we'll just ask the same question what we have asked before and see how AI behaves on top of it, whatever the extra information we have given.
Okay, so Small Biz Consulting, which is a fictitious company you just came up with. And apologies to Small Biz Consulting if it's a real company, but here we mean no harm. This is a fake company we just came up with. Churn risk score of 4. That means they've got some concerns, but churn risk score of 1, is now the new sort of highest risk. So Tech Corp Solutions, which is a fictitious customer of TechFlow, has a churn risk score of 1 in this system that you created, which is the highest risk. They have an open dispute regarding double billing with $15,000 in question. Okay, sounds good. And it knows that that is the highest risk. So then at the end, obviously gives you an opportunity to get a follow-up, but it knows exactly how to answer this question. Fantastic.
Yeah. So one other thing I just want to add over here, there might be some one where the churn risk might not be interpreted as 4 or 5, it can be lower, but there are some notes over in the example of you have added in the description, you have added in the notes of the customer. It's still picking up of those, because even if the churn risk is 4, it doesn't mean the customer doesn't have the pain of the problem over here. So it is picking all those also. And now we'll see whatever the things, what we want to do is we want to see now what are the critical issues in the system. Earlier it didn't identify.
And so that while you're typing that, I just want to reiterate, like what you're really saying is meaningful. It's not just about interpreting that one specific attribute about the churn score. It's also trying to understand what's happening with their specific tickets, what's happening in their specific cases in this situation. And it's actually giving you all that information, which is why you have sourced and cited information there. In fact, if we were just click on while you're typing that, if you were to click on sources down below, not on the numbers, but down there, you would actually see that it's actually grabbing many different types of objects, which is pretty cool. We can close that again if you want. Sure. So I love that. Now let's switch to from churn score to issues. And of course, now we're trying to see if we understand what critical means.
Yeah. So we'll see what are the critical issues in the system.
Okay.
So earlier, it doesn't identify what is the critical meaning for us. Now, let's see how it does. Yeah. So over here, earlier, when we say critical, it was saying P0, priority, and so on. But now it is identifying the different critical issues that is happening. And the first one we see has the support priority 2, which we define it to the user.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, I really, just to reiterate, the last time you asked this question, because you asked this question 10 minutes ago, what are the critical issues? And it's not that it didn't know what you were talking about. Because we have let's just call it a default understanding of what critical means, we were looking for things that have a P0 designation. And in your particular business model, there is no P0, but you have this attribute called support priority. And if it's a 2, you've obviously designated that as being, high. And of course, if it's nothing, then it's nothing. If it's 1, it's important. But if it's 2, it's critical. That's just the way your business works. It doesn't have to make sense for anybody else, but it has to make sense for your business. And all you did was add a description that said, listen, support priority 2 is critical for me. And you conveyed that very clearly in a single statement. And now you ask the same exact question and it's able to convey that effectively.
Yeah. So this is like basic way of adding annotation to any of the objects in the system and say that what exactly your data means to them. Now, suppose if we want to add annotation and go over more into this, like how to add annotation to a particular object, how to add annotation to a particular system. So we have created another tool for that. So let me go over that and say.
Okay.
So we have workflows in our system that works perfectly fine. I'll just give you an example of how you can create a workflow. So think about, these are simple fields in the system. Now you want to combine different links, different comments, different object types and say that I want to enhance this particular object. How can you do that? Without populating your original object. You don't want anywhere in the system, you want to show I just want to enhance this particular object so that whenever I search, it should come in the top of it.
Yeah. So while you're showing this, I just want to maybe set the stage a little bit. So obviously we're talking about annotations and systems of record. I think there's a lot of detail behind the scenes, and of course we're not going to be able to cover it all in this specific live stream. We only have a half an hour or so, but people should understand that we've got a fully sort of secure and compliant system of record built into our system. We're not just actually grabbing unstructured data. We have the capability of taking all your most critical data, your most critical integrations, and bring them to all your most important relevant surfaces. And that's part of the promise of DevRev and its knowledge graph. It's proprietary. It's obviously very unique in the market. And what we love about it is the fact that we're not just actually creating a knowledge graph without being able to act on it. We have a full workflow engine that allows you to not only run automations, but actually build agents that are able to take advantage of those automations as tools and skills, along with the knowledge that you have access to. And then on top of that, layer on access provisions and everything else that you would want to do in a business setting. So there's just a lot of depth to this platform. And right now, what you're showing is just one element of that platform, which is how you would actually do a no code or low code automation. And of course, you can do a high code as well. We've done live streams on that. But today, we're just looking at something very simple, which is a triggered low code workflow. So why don't you just walk us through what this low code workflow is doing?
What exactly is over here? What we want to show it is like there are like many customer, like it's a custom object. AI doesn't know anything about that. It's a customer profile. Some fields are already there. Now, how do you make sure those fields convey to in some manner to the user? So what I have done is like, if you want to create a summary out of it, what should be the next step for this particular customer? What should be the value enhancement for this customer? So what basically we have done over here is we'll create a new version. Simply, we'll say whenever the customer profile is updated, we want to create a call our ask AI node. Ask AI node is nothing but putting it out over there is as call LLM and generate a summary on this customer profile. Mm-hmm. So we are just generating a summary on customer profile on the basis of attributes it is. So we are saying that we'll have a churn risk analysis over here. Customer value assessment can be done. What is the problem they are facing? What is the recommendation you do? And the business contact. It is not in the object anymore, but you want to add it to enhance the customer and all the questions you are going to answer in the future.
Yeah, so let me replay that because obviously there's a lot of technicality to what you just conveyed. Again, what we're effectively doing is building an automation that behind the scenes, you don't have to take any human interaction here at the record level, but anytime a specific record that represents a customer profile is updated. So you've got a customer profile that's been updated. What we're effectively saying is we are going to trigger an automation that happens behind the scenes, and it could take microseconds, and it's going to take very little time to actually reflect in our search and retrieval. But what it's going to do is actually interpret information that's been brought into the object or into ancillary objects. It's going to take all that information, collect it, create some semantic meaning that you are trying to convey, and that's relevant to your business processes, it's relevant to how your departments function. You're going to take that information and basically put it into an annotation. What that means is you're putting it into a hidden field. It's not an actual attribute of the record that people can see and act on, but you're taking that information and you're actually putting it into the system. Imagine how we did search engine optimization, where you might have added meta tags, or you might have added other pieces of information, or maybe even relationships that are unseen when you actually go to a web page, but they're critical in making sure that if you look for a specific website, or if you're looking for a specific keyword, that your website actually shows up earlier and earlier in the ranked search results. And so we're doing the same thing here. We're basically saying, I want to understand what's going on at any time. If the profile is updated, I'm going to take my worldview, my business process, my department's terminology and understanding of the world, and I'm going to try to convey that in a hidden field inside this record and have that be annotated. And that's going to help us with search, both keyword and semantic search that we want to do.
Yeah. So as you explained, so I'll go over this. Basically, whenever this object is updated, we can have any kind of a prompt, any kind of a thing. What do we want to enhance this object is about? So what we are doing over here is we are creating a prompt. We are saying that we want these many fields. We are passing all the data of the user, title, subscription plan, image tag. These are the fields you have filled it, but what exactly this field mean to the user, that is what we are going to enhance this object is. And we are saying that whenever the value assessment is done, you have to say the revenue and strategic value of the user. Yeah. What is the timeline? What is the urgency and next steps? If you just want to find what are the next step I don't want to do with the customer, you just want to update it. What are the key problems and so on. So it's basically create this thing and it create a summary of the user, and then you just use this summary and create a indexing of this, basically enhance this object and say that, okay, now this summary should stay in the object.
Yeah. So that key, the knowledge store index
Yeah.
node, if you want to call it that, is the key one, because it's actually taking that summarization and it's actually making sure that it gets indexed the way you want it to get indexed.
Yeah. So what we are just asking is ask a output string, whatever the output string the thing gives,
Yep.
we'll just index them and we'll keep it store and create all the semantic search on top of it.
Amazing.
So
So really, you've basically bundled a whole lot of very, very deep understanding of profiles and value and many other things strategic to your business. You've started to really stuff that into each record, and that's going to allow you to do very rich search and retrieval.
yeah. So yeah.
Let's have a look then.
Yeah. So we have created this node. Now what we are saying is whenever the object is updated, we'll update it. So suppose this customer profile Sarah Johnson was there. We want to just update any of the fields. Say that revenue was okay. Let's remove something else and say that okay. There are some nodes and we'll just add. This is strategic customer.
Okay.
We just added this and now we want to enhance this object.
Yeah.
So now what we can see is in the background, what will be happening is we are taking all this information, passing it to LLM and say that what it should be the summary and enhancing that object with that. Now, okay, I'll just ask now what should be next steps. So the company was Tech Corp, as you see.
Yep.
Solution. So it will go over all these objects, all the system, whatever you enhance with, and find it out what exactly the next step should be. So here, yeah, we'll see the summary.
And as we're seeing the summary, I mean, obviously it seems very reasonable to resolve issues, process required refund, da. What are the specific elements of this response? I mean, obviously, it's a very thorough response. What are the specific elements that seem to have been influenced by this deeper enrichment that we just did?
Yeah. So if you can see, there is this is a Sarah Johnson over there. What it does is we have finding what should be the next step and what should be the urgent action. So on the basis of that, it says that account represents 15% of the enterprise revenue. If you don't solve this, you are going to lose this 50% of enterprise revenue. And what should be the next step? It's saying you have to resolve this issue, make sure the refund is there, and so on. So and make sure that you talk to them and keep them motivated about what exactly is happening in the org. So this is basically we have just added the user summary. You can add any other summary of the profile and say that what should be there.
Okay.
We can ask more questions. What is the value assessment that was never there in the system for tech?
Got it.
So these were not there before that. Now we have enriched the profile. Now our models can answer that what exactly is the going on with the tech cop and enhancing that object.
Okay. I get it. I mean, really what you're doing is you're allowing us to have deeper and deeper understandings just by sort of having this automation run in the background. This automation is doing nothing more than effectively indexing deeper and deeper information that you are able to sort of describe in plain English, really. So you have this no code workflow that's working for you behind the scenes, and it's taking information that you're adding or not to each profile and really kind of deepening its understanding of the profile. And the profile obviously connects that person to our business by understanding that they work for a specific customer, and on you go to understand how that relates to our workflows.
Yeah. So think about the answer only. There is no value assessment object we have created in the system.
Yeah.
But we have make sure the tech sub solution is enough to answer this. So we have created their annual revenue. Who is the key decision maker? That is what we wanted to understand. Whom to reach out to, and whatever the revenues and so on. So it's mostly enhancing that object we have done, and we can do much more with the workflows. But we have created a section out of it. Yeah. So
I love it. Okay, so I mean, we've seen quite a few things. Obviously, we saw what traditional search and retrieval looks like. We then started to understand a very basic description of our object model. We then started adding very deep insights. And then, of course, now we actually even showed how you can do automations on an ongoing basis through automation. Is there anything else you want to show us, Devanshu?
Not as of now, but it's more about like how do you make sure the system, you can enhance it by per object, you can enhance it per top level objects, you can enhance it and make sure your AI understand what your business value is, what your data means to you, and it can answer on every search query after that. But
Yeah, I think we always pride ourselves on fast, accurate, and hyper personalized, and I think this is showing how obviously even just the way the indexing was done is almost instantaneous. It's obviously accurate, but to get it to really understand your business and really know you as a business, you need to be able to support extended features like annotations, which you've shown us here, and I'm sure it's going to keep getting better and better. And I appreciate your time, Devanshu. Folks, this is all we have time for today. I'm sure we'll have a second part to this where we're going to see more and more, and hopefully TechFlow continues to gain more customers. Maybe we can use the same fake org and do some more magic next time. Thanks a lot, Devanshu, and thank you, everyone. Bye.